This is the Pickle Planet Podcast with Jenna and Tosh. Sit back and get a drink. Let's talk about parenting and how to survive it.
Or then. Welcome to the Pickle Planet Podcast. I'm Tosh Taylor.
And I'm Jenna Morton, and we are thrilled to have a special guest with us today. One of the very fun things about this whole pandemic situation is that it forced us to go virtual with the podcast. Usually Tosh and I are in studio together, and so we only have guests who are local. But since we have to be apart, we said, guess what? That means we can have anyone we want on the podcast. And so our first special guest is the one and only Tracey West, who is one of our favorite authors.
We have
that makes me so happy. I'm so flattered to be your first virtual guest. That's great.
This is so cool. We have talked about your books. How many episodes, Jenna?
Oh my goodness. There's probably at least 5 different episodes we've talked about your books.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's I think if I remember correctly, Tosh, I was the one who introduced them to you guys.
Yep.
And I feel like it was probably about 2 years ago now that I discovered them. I know it's been a little bit longer since you started writing this series and longer in general that you've been writing, but about 2 years ago, I found the first couple Dragon Masters books and we were hooked, and I hooked Tosh's family. I hooked every family I could because I think part of what fascinates me about your writing, Tracey, and Dragon Masters in particular, is that it fills this gap that was in the market. We had just been inundated with all these fabulous books for little kids. And then, you know, when you get to the older young adult category, there's lots of options and lots of authors I could think of. But in that in-between zone of like early reader who like really wants a story, I was finding it really hard to find something that was great. And then I found you.
Oh, I'm so glad you did. And honestly, the reason why Dragon Masters is the way it is has more to do with Scholastic and the Scholastic Branches series there, which was created by Katie Carella, who had a background in education, and she knew there was a real need for chapter books that could transition kids into longer chapter books. And she and Deborah Dorfman at Scholastic, it was that idea of compelling story that they felt was missing from some other books for that age group. And so it was Deborah who called me up and said, you know, there are a lot of books about dragons out there, but there is nothing for this age group, this sort of 6 to 8 age group, that is a compelling fantasy that's exciting and page turning. You know, there's a lot of wonderful, funny, silly, clever dragon books for kids that age, but nothing really serious fantasy. And, you know, she said, well, what can you come up with? And I love fantasy and I love dragons. So that's kind of how it started. And then just my wheels started turning.
I think what I love most about them is I am just as excited to read them as my daughters. They're really like the last one, the Time Dragon. We read that in a night. Like I was like, I don't want it to end. Let's just finish it. I want to know what's going to happen with Drake. And that's kind of how we've gone through every single one of these series or books in the series. They've just been so great. But I mean, we'll talk a lot about Dragon Masters today, but these are not the only books you write. You have written over 200 books, right?
It's closer to 400 now, I think. But I've been writing books for around 25 years, probably a little longer than that. I stopped counting a while ago. So you can write a lot of books in 25 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or some of us write none in 25 years.
Well, it's my passion, and it's what I knew I wanted to do from a very young age. So I just stayed focused on that goal and began writing, in my early 20s. So
I'd love to know a little bit more about that realization that this was what you wanted to do and how it came about.
I honestly can trace it back to the very first book I remember reading on my own, that I didn't have my parents or my grandma read to me, which was Go Dog Go by P.D. Eastman. And I remember getting to the end of that book, and there's the dog party on top of the tree, and it blew my mind. And I thought reading is the best thing in the whole world. And so reading was, just my favorite activity. And then when I was in second grade, my teacher, Mrs. Lukowski, brought in her cousin, who named Leonard Kessler, and he is a children's book author, and he wrote Mr. Pine's Purple House, among other things. But anyway, he came and he talked to our class, and he was a real live author. And that something clicked in my head, like, oh, that's a thing I could do. Here's a real person who has a job to write children's books, and I could do that too. And so honestly, that's pretty much all I ever thought about doing. I had some other thoughts, but I really just I wanted to write, and I wanted to write children's books. I never thought I became an English major, a journalism major. I read all kinds of stuff, but I just always, my heart was always tied to the books I loved as a kid, and I wanted to write books for children.
So how did you go about like your first book deal? How hard was it as an author to get started?
I took the route of getting a job in book publishing. So I was working for a book packaging company, which is a company that produces books for bigger publishers, and it was a children's company. And me and myself and two of the other editors, we collaborated on a book series called Great Uncle Dracula, about a girl who moves to a town, and everyone there is a witch or a werewolf or a ghost. And because they had more experience than I did in the industry, they knew editors, and we were able to sell it to an editor. That's always the hardest thing, is getting your book in front of somebody who has the ability to make decisions about it. And so, working within the industry, I had an in, I guess, that other people don't have.
That's fantastic. Jenna's being inundated right now.
I don't know how much the mic is picking up. Mommy said you're not supposed to go in there. They had their chance to say hi to Tracey before we started recording, everyone.
Oh, but I didn't have the volume on, so. You can bring them in at the end,
Yeah. Well, I had given them the option the other day. I'm like, I'm going to get to talk to Tracey. Do you have it? No, we could, no. Fine. Don't take the chance then.
Yeah, exactly.
And this morning, they were like, so can we come in?
Well, I mean, it's pretty amazing. Sarah said to me, she's like, I can't believe I'm going to get to talk to a famous person. And I was like, hey, your mom's got a podcast, man.
Yeah, right. We don't usually feel famous. I certainly don't. So it's always funny when somebody refers to us as a famous person, because writers, we don't usually get recognized on walking down the street. But
it's true. But when you can make children's imaginations actually go wild, that you're huge in their world.
But you are huge in a lot of people's worlds, because when Tosh and I started to spread the word that we were going to be interviewing you today, I can't tell you how many DMs I started to get. Oh my goodness, we love her books. Oh my goodness, we've read all her stuff. And then I'm like, well, no, you haven't read all of it, because you realize there's 400 titles now. Like pretty much everyone in my circle has read all 15 of the Dragon Masters books that are currently in circulation. Because I know that, so we were going to talk about this at some point, but I know there's 15 that are published. Mm-hmm. There are 2 more that you can pre-order already. And then there's 2 more. You're up to 19, right? There
will definitely be 20, excuse me, in the series, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Awesome. Okay, that's good.
And there's also the guidebook, Griffith's Guide to Dragon Master. So I never know whether to say there's 15 books out or 16 books out.
Sarah counts it as 16.
Yeah.
She said no, Mom, there's 16, but we had a big fight about it actually, and not a big fight, but you know what I mean, a fight with a 7-year-old. And she's like, no, Mom, count my books. And because she has the guide too, she's like, there's 16 books, and all right, that's fine. So yes, like Jenna was saying, June is the Sound Dragon, and then October is the Stone. How do you come up with all of these different dragons? And I love how you've hit the elements with them, and that's also something I love about it too, right? Is to have that magical-ish kind of background to it too.
Oh, thank you. Well, I started out, the first 4 dragons are an earth dragon, a fire dragon, a water dragon, and a sun dragon. And I'm going to take a sip here. And basically, though, I wasn't necessarily setting out to choose dragons based on elements. First, I started out by just reading myths and legends about dragons from around the world. So you will find dragons that live in the earth, and you'll find fire dragons in parts of Northern Europe, and you'll find water dragons in Asia, and the sun dragon came from a legend from Egypt. That is where I started. And then as the series became popular, I had a lot of readers talking to me about, I want to see a dragon with this power or that power. And then that's when I just started to brainstorm and make a list of, well, I don't have to stick with these mythological dragons, and I can just I call them my cool power dragons. So like the lightning dragon. I couldn't really find any myths about lightning dragon, but the lightning dragon is a really cool dragon, and it's a great power to give a dragon. So, and the powers are generally connected to the elements, but not necessarily, because we've got the sound dragon or, so that's just sort of a fun thing for me to do, is to, imagine what kinds of dragons there could be and what they could look like and what kind of powers they could have. And usually that's where I start, and then the stories often come from there. That's not always how it works, but sometimes it does.
Yeah.
And what about the personalities around the Dragon Masters?
Okay, so my idea in the beginning was that their personalities should match their dragons, which is why Rory has a temper, but she's also very bold and brave, like a fire dragon. It's why Bo is kind of very calm and chill, because he's the dragon master of a water dragon. Anna has a bright and sunny personality, like her sun dragon. Drake is very steady and doesn't lose his cool, so he pairs well with the earth dragon. And that was just sort of that was more of there was some logic to it, thinking, well, why would the Dragonstone choose, if you don't know Dragon Masters, if you're 8 years old, you get to be a Dragon Master if the Dragonstone magically chooses you and pairs you up with a dragon. Then you have to learn how to connect with that dragon, and then you team up with other Dragon Masters. So I had to think, well, why would the Dragonstone choose a Dragon Master? What qualities would that Dragon Master need? And then I sort of decided it would be cool if their personalities matched.
That's actually, I've never noticed that. It makes total sense, but it's something that I had never noticed, the way that they match their dragons. I love how some of the Dragon Masters already know they're Dragon Masters, like that some of them were born into it, kind of thing. I think that's really cool. Come on in.
Well, I had to think too, the Dragon Masters world is sort of a big world, because the main story takes place in the kingdom of Bracken, but because one of the dragons can sort of transport them anywhere in the world, we sort of get to see dragons from all over the place. And I thought, well, maybe not every place handles or deals with their Dragon Masters the same way that Griffith the Wizard does in Bracken, and so it's different everywhere you go. Absolutely.
So we're talking about the Dragon Masters and how she chose the Dragon Masters and how they chose their dragons. Can you hear? You can. You want to say hello?
Hi.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Come get closer to the microphone, please. There. Do you have any questions for Tracey? What do you think? One question that she was thinking of, since we're talking about the Dragon Masters, is she was wondering if there will ever be a Dragon Master named Sarah. We know that there is a character already named Sarah, but not a Dragon Master.
Oh, yes, that's right. It's Haru's mother is Sarah. So for that reason, there might not be, but you never know, because here's a something you might not know about the Dragon Masters names, but everyone in the series sort of has a name that's easy to read and easy to spell and easy to pronounce. So Sarah would be an excellent Dragon Masters.
Perfect. That's cool. Anything else you'd like to ask her? Did you forget all your questions? Okay. Kind of. That's okay. She was interested to know when we know the release dates for 17 or 16 and 17. She's wondering about 18 and 19. Will they come out in 2021?
Oh, I should know the answer to this. Because 16 is coming out in June and 17 is coming out in October. So yes, they'll be out in 2021. Usually there's like a winter, it depends on how many books come out a year, but probably winter of 2021 and spring of 2021.
Okay, perfect. We'll make sure to put those on the list. And then you were kind of wondering if there could be a teaser for what kind of dragon is going to be number 19, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so what I will tell you is that in book 17, which is Fortress of the Stone Dragon, the Dragon Masters learn that they need to find 3 special dragons. And so the 3 dragons they need to find are a lava dragon, a sea dragon, and a wind dragon.
Whoa.
And so books 18, 19, and 20 will meet those 3 dragons.
That is exciting.
That's a good scoop.
Yeah, that is a good scoop.
I'm excited. And I love your shirt, Sarah. So you've got your Pokemon shirt on.
Oh, that's a great. Oh, I didn't notice. That's fantastic. No, I had a lot of fun writing Pokemon books in the 2000s. I wrote quite a lot. A lot of those 400 books are Pokemon books, and that was a really fun time.
We better look for those, shouldn't we? Yeah.
I know we've found a few at the library because I think those aren't still in circulation, if I'm correct.
Well, I know Scholastic
maybe,
US re-released a lot of the chapter books when Pokemon Go came out, and everyone was talking about Pokemon again. So they re-released about 6 of the Pokemon chapter books.
And speaking of that, so, of that 400, we focused a lot on Dragon Masters because that's the ones that Tosh and I have read. And that's how we came to know your work. But in reading them, I then realized my kids had brought home and we had picked up at the library some of your Pokemon books and some of the other titles. You've worked on a lot of series books like that. Well,
one of the reasons I'm able to work as a writer full-time, or I have been able to work as a writer full-time for 25 plus years, is that I do a lot of what's called licensed publishing. So when publishers buy licenses to cartoons like Pokemon, or so I've written a lot of those kinds of books, and that's a lot of fun for someone like me who loves animation and loved cartoons as a kid almost as much as I love books. So I do a lot of writing for Lego Ninjago, and I just did some books for She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, the new Netflix series. So that's always a lot of fun.
The She-Ra one is on my list to buy.
I love the reboot of the series. It's so good.
You write so many books. How long does it take you to put out one of these kids' books?
It depends on the book. I say that a Dragon Masters book for me is about 3 months from beginning to end, from the idea stage to I write a chapter outline, and then usually I write 4 or 5, maybe more drafts of each book, and that whole process takes about 3 months. And then even when I'm done writing, I work with the editor and the artist when the art comes in, because we have so many wonderful illustrators on Dragon Masters. I really need to mention that because they help tell the story and they do an amazing job. And we work to make sure that the art matches the text, and I have to make sure I describe the settings clearly and the characters and what everybody's wearing and what everything looks like.
You're right. The illustrations for that series are incredible, and it definitely is part of what helped draw our family into it, because we were in that stage, especially with our kids. So right now they're 8, 7, and 7. And so, when we started reading, it was more like, 5, 5, and 6. And so to have those images on every page really helped make that transition from little kid one-off books to moving into the series. And it's just that you gave credit to Branches and Scholastic. That whole concept is just amazing. I love it. Everything that comes out.
Absolutely. That's the whole thought behind Branches, and it's really worked. It's really been successful. And in my case, it was a British artist named Graham Howells, who sort of, he lives in the UK where, dragons, are everywhere basically. And so he created the art for the first book, and he just really set the tone for the series, and it was wonderful.
Yeah, he really does take everything that you've said and spin it into exactly what I would have assumed these people look like anyway. You know what I mean? Like, it's so nice when you imagine the way someone looks and they actually come out that way. Like, it must have been relieving, right? That's fantastic. I'm just staring at all of them in front of me now because Sarah brought every single one of her books down with her.
I know. I saw that armload. It was so awesome.
Yeah.
And a lot of times what I do for the artist is I do a lot of research. So if a dragon is from a certain place in the world, I'll look at what is the dragon art from that region of the world look like? What do the statues look like? And so a lot of the dragon looks are based on dragons in this world, and then the artists just take them to a new place, and it's great.
I love that. Can you tell us a little bit about how the popularity kind of happened with this? Like, when did you kind of realize this series was taking off a little differently and was becoming a thing?
That's a good question. I guess I started writing in around 2014, which is funny because when I talk to first graders now, some of them were born when the first Dragon Masters book was born, and now they've got the whole series. But it wasn't until after I wrote the first 4 books, I guess nobody was really sure how it was doing, and I was told, okay, well, write just one. We could do one more. So let's write number 5. And that's why Song of the Poison Dragon is sort of a story you can read it. It's a story unto itself. And then, all right, maybe 2 more. And then maybe it wasn't until books like 8 or 9 that it started hitting. I can't recall which book first started hitting like the USA Today bestseller list. And then recently, Future of the Time Dragon made the New York the series appeared on the New York Times bestseller list because they sort of count up all of the books in the series at once, but it was sort of Future of the Time Dragon that pushed that over the edge. So I'm still processing that.
Amazing.
It's hard. You don't really get a sense until I'm home and I write books, and that's what I do. So it's sort of a little surreal when you start getting that news.
We can say they blew up. That's an understatement. You were showing us before we started that you even have like a stuffed version of Worm, the Earth Dragon. Do you have all of them? And are they available?
No, actually, I have to say, I had a fabric artist make this for me.
Nice.
So that I could bring it to when I do school visits or book fairs. It just helps connect with kids because authors are scary, but stuffed dragons aren't.
Yeah.
But we've had a lot of requests people always ask, where can I get a worm? And, maybe someday.
Someday, exactly. Would you say if you had to pick a dragon and a dragon master, would Drake and Worm be your favorite?
Oh, do I have to pick matching ones?
No, you don't have to pick matching ones. No.
Worm is definitely my favorite. Sorry. So the thing about Worm is that I read a story about a Wyrm in England, Wyrm, about this dragon that just sort of lived underground, but it intrigued me, and I thought, well, everybody always wants to write about, or the movies are always about the big, scary, fire-breathing dragons. And so I thought, well, what if this dragon doesn't look like a very powerful dragon, but really ends up being really the most powerful dragon of all? And that's how Worm came about. So I just love Worm, and I love Worm's gentleness, especially. So, and then as far as favorite Dragon Master, I'm gonna say that I like Rory. It's a lot of fun to write for Rory, and Rory is a misunderstood Dragon Master, I think, because she does like to tell other people what to do, and she can be stubborn, and those aren't great qualities. But she's also a lot braver than I certainly am. So I would hope to be as brave as Rory if I were a Dragon Master. But I do like Rory a lot, and she's sort of based on one of my stepsons, her personality, but also a redhead.
I was just going to say, there's something about that, because my son Rory, lines up a little close with a lot of that, and the redhead lines up a lot with it.
Yep.
But yeah, so I guess in my heart, I like Rory the best.
I kind of do too, but it's the ginger connection.
Exactly.
Yeah, we've all got a soft spot for Rory here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Tracey, before we let you go, how about you tell people how they can follow you or get more information on all of the books that you're writing, not just the Dragon Master series?
Okay, sure. So, I have, there are so many ways to connect with authors. I have found for some reason that my Facebook page, which is, you can find me on Facebook at author Tracey West, and that's a Tracey with an EY, is where I connect most with parents and teachers and librarians. And I do I've been doing, since the world has changed, I've been doing a lot more Facebook Live videos. And I'm always trying to do something fun there, and I do a lot of giveaways there. You can find me on Twitter at Tracey West Books, and Instagram, which is just a really old handle, Tracey West 8628. And I'm working on setting up a YouTube channel, because I recently was able to do sort of some book teasers that a teacher or a parent could use to introduce each of the books to a reader. So those are going to go up soon.
Oh, I love that. That's fantastic.
Yes, we'll be watching for that for sure, and sharing that with everyone. And you've been doing some really great, what I love is the writing prompts you've been doing the past little while on your Facebook page and Instagram.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. I think, like most authors, we want to offer some kind of help to parents who are at home with their kids. And I know they're getting a lot of online activities from schools, but not everybody is. And so everybody's responding with read alouds. And I just got the idea to do writing prompts because, when I talk to kids in schools, they're always asking me, how do I come up with an idea for a story? And so I've just been doing some story starters, which has been a fun exercise for me and has been giving me some ideas too. So
yeah, I can imagine it's a great way for you to roll with it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We love them. We do them as what we call pass around stories. So we'll say the first sentence and then each person has to add a line to the story.
Oh, that's so much fun.
Did you fix it? Did you fix it?
No, it's not fixed yet, but we were showing Tracey your Dragon Master. So yeah, I think we're going to have to wrap it up there, as I'm quickly adding people to my studio here. Our time is running out.
It's so nice to see everybody.
You say hi.
Hi.
Hi there.
This is Alistair and
Hi.
Honora, I think is this dragon. Cinder. I'm sorry.
Cinder.
Oh, that's a
At double
great
trouble.
name for a dragon.
I
What kind of powers does Cinder have?
Ooh, yeah. What kind of powers does Cinder have? Silence. We're
It's
thinking.
sort of a fiery name.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you.
You can tell us? Okay, what kind of powers would Cinder have? Poison is one answer.
Oh yeah.
Acid is the other.
Acid.
Well, you know what?
Back here today.
It's a green dragon, kind of like the Hydra and Dragon Masters, and she's a poison dragon, so maybe they're related.
They could be related. I agree.
Right, and at that, we should probably wrap this up. Thank you so much, Tracy. This has been such fun and so fascinating to hear about your work process and your success. And congratulations on the New York Times list. That's amazing.
Thank you so much. And I'm so thrilled that you invited me. This was such a pleasure to talk to you both, and I look forward to seeing you online.
Yeah, you will definitely see us online, and we look forward to the next set of books coming out. Yeah.
Great.
Thanks again.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Lisa. Bye.
Say bye to a green dragon.
There's Worm. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in, for watching, for listening to the podcast. You can follow us, Pickle Planet Moncton, and the Podcast Hub. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all those fabulous places, on YouTube. And thanks to our friends at Rogers TV for recording and sharing our show with the world. And yeah, if you like this, if you have other suggestions for authors or anyone else you'd want us to reach out to, please let us know, because hey, as long as we're home, we are going to just keep asking people if they're going to come on and chat with us.
Exactly. We're going to keep trucking along. So if you would like to leave us a review too, we'd greatly appreciate it. Until next week.